Night fell, wind whipped through the old tin roofs of the impoverished alley, carrying with it the groans of the dead. The deaths of Huong and then Tuan, vague whispers that clung to him like a shadow. Huong still walked about in broad daylight, wearing a gentle smile, but at night, that face distorted, her eyes pitch black and cold, as if she had long crossed over. Huong's young deceased mother's spirit returned, begging for the rescue of her remaining child, who was being led into a cycle of death by an unknown vengeful spirit. Every time darkness fell, a head would sway, teeth would grind, and a chilling question would repeat in his ear. "Wanna play together? It's a lot of fun." Hey, I spun around at the call. It was Huong. I thought it was some gangster coming for debt collection. "Sit down," I said, annoyed. "Order something, you're paying today, I'm broke." Huong sat on the opposite chair, looking at me with wet, adoring eyes, a twisted smile spreading across his face. "I just got back from school, walking made me tired and thirsty. Have a little pity. Order me a drink." I grumbled, he chuckled. "I already ordered." Huong and I were in different classes but quite close friends. But for some reason, for the past few days, he'd find every excuse to see me. Each time, he'd just order a drink and sit there, saying nothing. Every now and then, I'd glance over and see him staring at me as if he had something to say. I thought to myself, gosh, his attitude is like he's about to confess his feelings for me. But he doesn't seem to like boys at all. I pondered for a moment, then asked him directly, "Hey, seriously, do you have something to tell me?" He looked at me silently, his face hardening, his hands clenched together. As soon as I finished speaking, I saw his face turn pale, sweat beading on his freckled skin. After a long silence, he lowered his face and mumbled, "From now on, can I go home with you?" Damn it, did I hear that right? I knew I was somewhat handsome, but not enough to make a big, burly, smelly guy like him fall for me. Sweat poured off me. My genius brain tried to find a convincing reason why I would never want to go home with a guy like that. My class schedule is all over the place. I have extra lessons for everything. Plus, we don't even live on the same route. How can I go home with you? Suddenly, Huong grabbed my hand, gripping it tightly. "Please, I'm begging you. You have to." Holy heavens, my delicate hands had never even been held by a girl, and now this burly guy was gripping them so tight. "Let go of my hand." I yanked my hand away forcefully, about to curse him out when I saw his face crumple. He whispered, "If you don't help me, I might just leave this place for good." Suddenly realizing something was very strange, I asked, "What's wrong? Tell me clearly." Hung's face turned serious. He looked around nervously, then whispered, "You know Huong." "Huong from the next class, right? She's pretty cute. Are you going to confess to her?" I teased. Huong looked around again, as if afraid someone might hear, then whispered, "Huong is dead." I laughed it off. "Are you crazy? I just saw Huong this morning. She was going to school like normal. Dead? No way." Huong grimaced. "Listen to me, I saw it with my own eyes. That night I got home from extra lessons a bit late, almost 11 p.m. As I passed by Huong's house, I inadvertently looked up at her room window, and I clearly saw Huong hanging in her room. The window was open and it was on the first floor, so I saw everything clearly. Her face was ashen white, her eyes wide open and bloodshot, her tongue sticking out quite a bit. I was so scared I ran straight home. "You're messing with me. If she's dead, then who did I see this morning? A ghost? What kind of ghost appears in broad daylight?" I added. "And if she's dead, why haven't I heard any announcement from the school?" "I'm not lying, damn it," Huong insisted. "I'm not kidding. I also found it strange that everything was normal the next morning. I thought maybe I was just tired that night and imagined things. But there's one thing I can prove." He held up his arm, pointing to it and saying, "Look." I looked at his arm. On his wrist, there was a clear, dark bruise in the shape of a handprint. "Who's strong enough to bruise your wrist like that?" Hung's eyes widened as he declared, "Huong, who else?" His voice trembled. I found it strange, so the very next afternoon I went to find Huong to talk. I told her I saw her hanging and all that. Suddenly she leaned her face close to mine and her hand grabbed my wrist. I felt a coldness radiating from her, even though the weather was very hot. Her voice was hoarse and thick. "So you saw it?" After saying that, she let go of my hand, smiled at me, and walked away. I looked at my wrist, and it was bruised dark like that. From that day until now, every time I pass her house, I feel like someone is standing behind me, watching me. But when I turn around, there's no one. Hearing this, I started to ponder. As a guy living in the 4 era, I didn't believe in ghosts, but seeing Hung's wrist made me half believe, half doubt. My curiosity led me to a decision. I'll believe it when I see it. You sit here and wait for me. At exactly 9:30 p.m., after my extra lessons, you and I will go to Huong's house and talk to her. I don't believe in ghosts in this world. Hung thought for a moment, then said, Okay, even though I'm really scared, I'll do it to prove I'm not lying to you. Let's go. After agreeing, I asked for the bill, took out my trusty bicycle, and rode off. At exactly 9:30 p.m., I cycled back to the cafe to pick up Hung. Strange, Hung wasn't there. He was supposed to wait for me so we could go to Huong's house together, but he was gone. After standing for a while, I figured he probably waited too long and went home. But the matter of Huong was still nagging at me, so I decided to go to her house first to find out the truth, then look for Hung later. According to Hung, to get to his house, you had to pass Huong's house first. After cycling for about 10 minutes, I reached the small road leading to Hung's house. As soon as I got to the entrance of the road, I saw funeral flags. I pulled over and asked an old man sitting nearby where Huong's house was. After a few seconds of thought, the uncle asked me, Huong, Mrs. Bay's daughter who sells groceries? Right there. Following his shy direction, I was startled to see it was indeed the house with the funeral. I felt a little bewildered, recalling Hung's story. I asked, Huong is dead, uncle. The uncle looked at me for a moment, then said, Are you Huong's classmate? Her mother, Mrs. Bay, just passed away today. Heard she had a heart attack, but it's strange. I've never heard she had heart problems before. Since you're here, light and incense stick for her. Poor Huong, just her and her mother, and now her mother is gone. I nodded, thanked the uncle, and went to the funeral. I didn't see Huong anywhere, only a few guests sitting in front, talking. I didn't dare look at Mrs. Bay's funeral photo for some reason I couldn't explain. I thought to myself, I'll put Huong's matter aside for now. I'll go to Hung's house first. After cycling a short distance, I stood in front of Hung's house. The house was completely dark, everyone must have been asleep. I turned my bike around to leave when suddenly a light came on. Seeing this, I knocked on the door again. The door opened, and Hung's mother, Mrs. Lian, stepped out, her face haggard and gaunt. On closer inspection, her eyes were dark and sunken, likely from lack of sleep. Auntie, can I see Hung? She looked at me with sad, tearful eyes. She choked out. Hung was hit by a car, unconscious in the hospital for days now. I've been staying with him at the hospital these past few days. I just came home to pack some things, and now I'm going back to the hospital. I was stunned, dropping my bicycle. What the hell did I just hear? My head spun. How could such a strange thing happen? Hung is in the hospital from an accident, so who was drinking coffee with me this afternoon? Did I fall asleep at the cafe and dream it all? And what about Huong? Hung said with absolute certainty that Huong was dead. Why is it now Mrs. Bay's funeral, her mother? If what the uncle said earlier is true, then Huong is clearly still alive. As my head reeled with a barrage of questions, Mrs. Lian's voice interrupted my thoughts. Are you all right, son? Your face looks pale. Did you catch a cold? I composed myself, telling myself that I must have fallen asleep at the cafe that afternoon. People say sleeping in the afternoon can make you dream strange things. It must be true. No, I'm fine, just a little dizzy. Oh, well, I'm going to the hospital to see Hung now. As Mrs. Lian got on her scooter and started the engine, an idea suddenly sparked in my mind. I suggested, Auntie, you must be very tired from looking after Hung these past few days. You look so worn out. How about I stay with Hung tonight so you can go home and rest for one night? Mrs. Lian looked at me, hesitant, then said, Oh, that would be too much trouble for you. It's no trouble at all, Auntie, I interrupted. We've been good friends for a long time, plus tomorrow is Sunday and I'm not busy. Consider it friends helping each other in times of trouble. Please don't worry. Seeing my determined attitude, Mrs. Lian thought for a moment and then accepted. Thank you so much, son. To be honest, I haven't been able to sleep at all these past few days. The moment I close my eyes, I wake up startled because I think I hear Hung calling. But when I look, he's still in a coma. Oh, I'm so worried about him, she sighed. All right then, you can park your bicycle at my house, and I'll give you a ride since it's getting dark. I'll come early tomorrow morning to take you home. I nodded. Mrs. Lian opened the gate for me to bring my bicycle inside, while she waited outside. As I carefully leaned my beloved bike against the wall, I suddenly felt like someone was watching me. Goosebumps covered my arms. I turned my head left and right, but there was no one. Most of the lights inside the house were off, only a single bulb near the entrance and a small light near the staircase. Am I hallucinating? Because as soon as I looked towards the staircase, I distinctly saw the shadow of a man standing right there, staring at me. Even though the light was dim, I couldn't be wrong. That tall, large figure was Huong. His face was pale but covered in blood, his eyes wide open, staring straight at me. His mouth moved as if speaking something I couldn't hear. His hand pointed directly at me. My heart began to pound, and I was soaked in sweat. I took a deep breath to calm myself. Is that you, Huong? Is it really you? Your mom told me you were hit by a car and are in the hospital. Huong still mumbled something, his hand still pointing at me. Suddenly, I realized he was actually pointing at something behind my back. I turned around, but saw nothing. Then I turned back, intending to ask Huong what he was pointing at, but strangely, Huong was gone. I still didn't understand what was happening. I was about to run out and ask Mrs. Lian about Huong, but the one waiting for me at the door wasn't Mrs. Lian, it was Huong. It was really her. She should be at home dealing with her mother's funeral right now. How long has she been standing here? I felt my heart begin to race. I asked, Huong, are you also looking for Huong? Huong didn't answer, her face utterly cold. She stood there, staring at me without blinking. I felt uncomfortable with her attitude. What's wrong with this girl? I looked out for Mrs. Lian but couldn't see her anywhere. Suddenly, Huong was standing right in front of me. I hadn't even noticed her approach. I clearly felt a coldness radiating from her body. Her mouth leaned close to my ear, whispering in a hoarse, thick, ghostly voice, "Want to play together? It's a lot of fun." I really didn't understand what she was saying. Play what at this hour? Suddenly, I looked down, her hand was gripping my wrist. A piercing, cold pain shot through my bones right there. I used all my strength to violently yank my hand away from hers. With a thud, I fell backward, my head hitting the door. While I was still bewildered, I suddenly heard a warm voice, Mrs. Lian's voice. "Are you all right, son?" I was startled. Huong was gone, instead in front of me was Mrs. Lian. She reached out to help me up amidst my bewilderment. Why are people appearing and disappearing like this? Clearly, with the pain I was feeling, I wasn't dreaming. I was completely lucid, but after everything that had happened, I no longer trusted what I saw before my eyes. I instinctively stepped back a little and asked, "Mrs. Lian, is that really you?" "It's me, why do you ask?" Mrs. Lian looked at me, surprised. "You just stood there staring at me, then stammered and fell backward. I thought you caught a cold, so I came to help you up. Are you all right?" "Yes, I'm fine, I just slipped." I slowly regained my composure. "Let's go, Auntie." I got on the scooter and Mrs. Lian drove me. I looked at the clock. It was almost 11 p.m. Passing by Mrs. Bay's funeral, I was momentarily startled to see Huong sitting there, receiving guests. She was wearing funeral attire, and her face looked a bit gaunt, probably from crying a lot, but she looked no different from a normal living person. So what was that ghostly scene earlier? The streets began to thin out. Shops and houses on both sides of the road were almost all closed. I quickly called home to tell my mom I was sleeping at Huong's house tonight, so she wouldn't worry. Sitting on the back of the scooter, I couldn't stop thinking about the scary things that had just happened. My brain truly couldn't process the sudden influx of information. Everything was too hard to understand. Lost in thought, the scooter stopped. I looked up and saw that we had arrived at the hospital gate. With heavy steps after a tiring and stressful day, I followed Mrs. Lian to the special recovery room where Huong was lying. The long corridor was quiet. Only a few patient relatives were still awake. Most others had fallen asleep. I checked the clock again. It was almost midnight. In front of the room, she opened the door and led me in. What I saw was Huong lying there, covered in all sorts of tubes and wires. His face was still swollen, and his head was tightly bandaged. If no one told me, I probably wouldn't have recognized him. Mrs. Lian gave me some instructions, left the necessary items, and then left. Now it was just Huong and me. He lay clearly before me, silent and unmoving. So who was that guy who sat drinking coffee with me every afternoon? And the one who appeared at his house near the staircase, mumbling something and pointing behind me? He must have been pointing at Huong. Could it be just Hung's spirit coming back to warn me about Huong? If so, is Hung's accident linked to Huong? But I clearly didn't see anything strange when I passed her house earlier. My head ached as if being hammered from the blow earlier and hundreds of unexplained questions. I looked at Hung and said to him, "Wake up, you jerk, I'm going crazy here. Wake up and explain everything to me. Do you hear me?" I sat looking at Hung for a while, then drifted off to sleep, I don't know when. Everything became silent, only the steady beeping of the heart monitor. Time passed quietly when suddenly a knock on the door startled me awake. I looked at the clock, 1 a.m., so I had only dozed off for about 20 minutes. My head was throbbing as if nails were being driven into it, and my eyes were stinging. Who could it be? It's not visiting hours or doctor's rounds now. Did Auntie forget something and come back? I thought, tired as I stood up. I slowly walked towards the door when I heard a sound. "Don't open it." I spun around. The sound clearly came from Hung's direction. Has he woken up? Looking closely, his eyes were still closed, his breathing steady. He clearly hadn't woken up. The knocking on the door began to get louder. "Coming," I replied and turned back towards the door. Suddenly, a hand gripped mine tightly. I flinched, glancing back, and saw Hung's hand gripping mine tightly. His eyes were wide open, staring straight at me, his mouth mumbling. "Hide, are you awake, Hung? What are you saying? I can't hear you clearly." I squeezed Hung's hand, leaning my ear close to his mouth. She's here. She's coming," Hung whispered feebly. "Who is she? Who is it?" I gripped Hung's hand. It was ice cold like a corpse's. I felt no warmth at all radiating from him. Looking back, his eyes were closed again. His hand had fallen limp at some point. I quickly looked at the heart monitor. Thank goodness, his heart was still beating. He seemed to be telling me to hide. Hide from what? And who is she? I wondered. Suddenly, I remembered something. The knocking on the door was gone. Everything became silent again, a frightening silence. I looked at the room door. A strange feeling gave me goosebumps. It seemed like someone was standing outside, looking directly into the room. Since most of the lights outside were off, I couldn't see anything from inside. I took a deep breath, relaxed my body, and slowly approached the door. I had to make sure there was no one out there to feel safe. Summoning all the courage of a 17-year-old boy, I grabbed the doorknob, slowly twisted it. I pulled it open forcefully. The door swung wide open. No one was there, not a sound. The hospital corridor was pitch black with only a few dim ceiling lights, making the scene look like something out of a horror movie. Just as I thought everything was all right, I suddenly heard a girl sobbing, a distant, lingering cry that was also very close. Mixed with the crying was a voice saying something like, "Hick. Hicks can't breathe, hick, can't breathe." My hair stood on end. I suddenly realized the voice was coming from behind me. I breathed heavily, slowly turning my head to look. My mouth fell open, my eyes wide, because in front of me was the image of a girl standing with her back to Hung. Her hands were covering her face, crying. I didn't dare go closer to her. I stammered, "You! Who are you? Are you here to visit Hung?" Suddenly, the crying stopped. Her hands fell limp, but she didn't answer. "Hey, who are you? Please answer. Are you here to visit Hung?" A horrifying scene unfolded before my eyes. The girl remained in the same posture, but her head twisted 180 degrees to look straight at me. Huong, it was her. Had she really died and become a ghost? Her teeth clenched together, grinding loudly. Her eyes were completely black, no whites visible. Her face was contorted in anger. She slowly advanced towards me in that same posture. I screamed in panic. "No, don't come closer. Stay away from me, don't come here." The grinding teeth grew louder and louder, as if my ears would explode. My mind wanted to run, but my body seemed frozen, unable to move an inch. She approached my face, stared at me for a few seconds, then her face relaxed. The grinding teeth stopped. She whispered, still in that thick, hoarse voice, "Wanna play together? It's a lot of fun." As soon as she finished speaking, she burst into laughter, a terrifying, ghostly laugh, but with an underlying choked, suppressed anguish. My head suddenly began to spin, my eyes blurred. I collapsed onto the tiled floor, my eyes slowly closing. In a daze, I saw Huong slowly approaching Hung's spot, her wild laugh fading further and further away. I was dreaming. In my dream, I heard the faint sounds of a group of friends, both male and female, laughing and talking jovially. Then came screams, cries, and chaos, followed by a clatter as if something wooden had fallen on the tiled floor. Then everything fell silent. I sank into the silent darkness. Young man, a deep, middle-aged man's voice rang out, startling me awake. Young man, wake up. Why are you sleeping here? I slowly sat up and opened my eyes. I realized I had been sleeping in the hospital corridor all night. I instinctively asked the uncle who had just woken me up, "What time is it, uncle? How long have I been here?" "It's 5:10 a.m. How would I know how long you've been here? I was going to buy a coffee and saw you sprawled out in front of the door, so I woke you up. Are you here visiting?" As soon as I heard that, I quickly rushed to the door of Hung's room. Looking through the glass door, Hung was still lying there, motionless. The heart monitor was still beeping normally. Thank goodness, I breathed a sigh of relief. I slumped onto the plastic chairs in front of the room. My body was sore and aching. My head was still reeling from the shock last night. The uncle sat down next to me, his voice curious. "Hey, young man, are you related to the boy in there?" "No, I'm just a friend," I sighed, tired. I saw his mother, Mrs. Leon, was exhausted from staying awake guarding him these past few days, so I offered to help watch him for a night so she could go home and rest. "Are you also here visiting Uncle?" I asked. "Yes, my son's room is right next door. He also fell off his bike, broke his leg, and had a head injury. Luckily, he just woke up last night. Thank God," the uncle said. Then he looked towards Hung's room, his eyes thoughtful as if pondering something. I sensed something was up, so I pressed him. "How long has your son been hospitalized, sir? Was Hung, my friend, already here when your son was admitted?" "It's been more than half a month, young man. When my son came here, the boy in this room hadn't arrived yet," the uncle said. "Were you here when he arrived? Did you notice anything strange then?" I asked further. The uncle thought for a moment, then said, "Nothing strange these past few days. The strange part was the very first day Hung came in. It was around noon, almost 12 p.m. I was sitting eating my lunch when I saw a nurse go into the room to clean up, change the sheets, and all that. After a while, I saw Hung being pushed in on a gurney. I wasn't paying much attention then, but as they pushed him past me, I heard him say something." "What did he say, uncle?" I pressed him. "I didn't hear very clearly, just vaguely something like she's here, she's coming, and hide away, I'm being forced. Have mercy on me," something like that. Hearing the uncle's words, I remembered that last night when Hung briefly woke up. He also said similar incomprehensible words to me. Everything was now a tangled mess. I truly couldn't explain anything. Perhaps I should wait until I got home, showered, and had a good, sober sleep before I could think further. Seeing my pensive look, the uncle spoke up. "Well, I'm leaving now. Goodbye, young man." "Goodbye, uncle. I hope your son recovers quickly," I replied. The uncle nodded his thanks and left. I sighed, looking around. It was fully morning now, and almost everyone was awake. The hospital had become quite noisy. After a while, Mrs. Leon arrived. She looked at me and smiled. She looked much fresher today than last night. She sat down next to me, handed me a packet of sticky rice with savory toppings, and said, "Eat up, son. You must be exhausted watching Hung all night, right? You look so haggard, probably couldn't sleep in a strange place, right?" She chuckled and, without waiting for my answer, asked, "Everything all right last night? How is Hung?" "He's not awake yet, but he's stable," I replied with a strained smile. How could I tell her what happened last night? She would surely think I was crazy or worry 100 times more. A hint of disappointment crossed her face, and she sighed. All right, you eat, and then I'll wait for you to go home and get your bike. Thank you for being so devoted to my family." I nodded, smiling faintly. I hadn't eaten anything since last night, so I took the packet of sticky rice and devoured it. The streets returned to their daily hustle and bustle. The busy traffic, the crowded markets, the surrounding scenery once again became a colorful overall picture. After a short ride, we reached the cafe where I usually de-stressed after intense study hours. Suddenly, I wanted to find out something. I told Mrs. Leon, "Auntie, please stop the car at the cafe up ahead for a moment. I want to ask something. I'll be right out." Mrs. Leon nodded and turned into the cafe. I walked in, looking for the usual waiter who served me drinks every day. As soon as he saw me, he gave a bright smile. "Why are you here so early today, little brother?" The usual. I shook my head. "No, I'm not drinking today. I want to ask you something." He saw my unusual expression and became serious. "What's wrong? Go ahead and ask." My face turned grim. I asked, "Have you seen the guy who usually sits and drinks with me these past few days? He always comes after me or orders coffee." The waiter looked at me with surprise, then said, "You're always joking, little brother. These past few days, you've been sitting here drinking alone from the moment you arrived until you left. Every time you come in, you order iced kumquat tea, and then a little while later, you order another cup of coffee. I even thought you were thirsty, so you ordered 2 drinks." As soon as I heard that, I felt a heavy dizziness. So these past few days, it was Hung's spirit coming to find me for help, and I didn't realize his strange attitude sooner. I nodded my thanks and said goodbye to the waiter. Getting on the scooter, Mrs. Lian drove me straight home. As we passed Huong's house, I saw the door closed and silent. Outside, scattered papers and gold offerings lay everywhere. "They took Mrs. Bay to the crematorium early this morning," Mrs. Lian sighed. "Poor lonely family." I didn't say anything. All I wanted now was to get home quickly and have a deep sleep to forget the obsessions in my head. Upon arriving, Mrs. Lian got off the scooter and opened the gate for me to retrieve my bicycle. I wheeled out my bike, got on, and didn't forget to turn back and wave goodbye to Mrs. Lian, then pedaled at full speed towards my beloved home. Never had the road home felt so long. It felt like I had been cycling for hours. Finally, my cherished house appeared before my eyes. I breathed a sigh of relief. My mother was sweeping the yard. I called out loudly, "Mom, your precious son is home. Open the door for me." My mother looked at me, both smiling and glaring. "Oh, stop it, you're a big boy acting like a child. Wait a minute." My mother put the broom down and came to open the door for me. As soon as I entered, my mother closed the door, then suddenly called me back and said, "Oh, I forgot. Your friend came to look for you. She's been waiting for you all this time. Go inside and meet her, son." "Who is it, Mom, a boy or a girl?" I was surprised. "A girl. I think she said her name is Huong." As soon as I heard the name Huong, my head suddenly spun, my limbs went numb. Oh no, how did she know my house? I was in extreme panic. My mother looked at me with a worried expression. She asked, "Are you all right? Are you sick?" "No, I'm fine, Mom. I'm just a little tired." I forced a smile. "All right, quickly bring your bike inside, son. Standing outside, you might catch a cold. I'll go to the back to make some drinks for you too," my mother urged. I numbly pushed my bike inside. My mind was at its breaking point. I didn't know how to deal with this situation anymore. I also couldn't tell my mother what was happening with Hung and with me right now. She would surely be very worried. Entering the bathroom, I splashed my face with water from the sink to clear my head. The cold water made my mind feel a little more at ease. After washing my face, as I looked up, the mirror reflected my image and another person standing behind me. Still that pale face, devoid of blood, eyes completely black with no whites, a ghostly smile staring intently at me. "It's Huong again." I spun around to look at her. No one was there. My heart pounded. How could a ghost like Huong move freely in broad daylight like this? And moreover, appear before everyone as if she were still alive? There was only one way to clarify this. I had to confront her directly. Leaving the bathroom, I strode into the living room, where Huong was sitting, waiting for me. As soon as I entered, I saw my mother talking to her. She was sitting with her back to me. As soon as my mother saw me, she urged, "Come here quickly, son. Your friend has been waiting for a long time." I nodded. I slowly approached the sofa, my eyes fixed on Huong. I was genuinely surprised. Before my eyes, Huong was completely normal. A fair, pleasant face, dark pigeon-like eyes. She was wearing a t-shirt and short shorts, looking very cute. She looked at me and bowed her head, smiling faintly. Honestly, if I hadn't gone through those horrible things yesterday, I would have fallen for her already. Sitting opposite her, I still stared at her and said nothing. My mother, seeing this, immediately scolded me. "This boy, your girlfriend comes to visit and you don't even smile or greet her. Staring at people like that is very rude." Then she turned to Huong and said, "Please forgive him. He's probably tired, so his attitude is a bit strange, but he's usually very funny." Huong replied softly, "Yes, Auntie," and smiled again. My mother finished speaking, then turned to me and whispered conspiratorially, "I really like this girl, son. Such a gentle, well-behaved, charming girl. Don't let her get away. Now I'm going to cook. Invite your friend to stay for lunch with us, okay?" I mumbled a non-committal reply. Right now, I don't even know if she's alive or dead, so how can I do what my mom says? After my mother left, I spoke in a cross-examining tone. You are Huong, right? Yes, I'm Huong, hello, she said gently. How do you know my house is here? We've only met a few times at school, and we haven't even spoken a word to each other, I said. Huong remained silent. She just sat looking at me, her face still calm, a constant faint smile on her lips. That attitude really annoyed me. I spoke sharply. Why did you come to find me? You and I have nothing to do with each other. Go home. As soon as I finished speaking, Huong's face suddenly contorted, her eyes welling up as if she was about to cry. I suddenly felt that I had been too harsh. After all, she was a girl. It seemed that the events of yesterday had made me lose control of myself. I lowered my voice. I'm sorry, I spoke too loudly. Huong bowed her head, her hands on her lap, sobbing. I'm sorry for coming to your house so suddenly without warning. Hung was the one who told me where your house is. He said only you could help us and the others. He said you're very smart, you'll definitely find a way. Before she finished, Huong burst into tears. Her choked sobs made me even more confused. I wondered why I was getting involved in such a crazy situation. I pressed her. What's wrong? Tell me clearly. What are you and Hung involved in, and who are the others? Suddenly, Huong fell silent. She stopped crying. Her head was still bowed, but I noticed it swaying slightly. I pressed her. Huong, tell me, why are you so quiet? Her head still swayed back and forth, faster and faster. My God, is this girl on drugs? Why is she shaking so much? I thought. Huong, what's wrong with you? I called out loudly. Huong remained silent, her head shaking so fast it seemed it could fly off her neck at any moment. My throat tightened, I just stared at her, not knowing what to do. Suddenly, she stopped. Huong, are you all right? Don't do that, you're scaring me. I trembled. After a few seconds of silence, she suddenly lifted her face. It was that ghostly face again. She lunged at me, her hands gripping mine tightly, her face pressed close to mine, and in that characteristic thick hoarse voice, she hissed through clenched teeth, "Revenge, punishment." My eyes squeezed shut, and I screamed loudly in extreme terror. My mother, hearing my scream, rushed upstairs, her voice frantic. What's wrong, you two? I opened my eyes as soon as I heard my mother's voice. Huong was still sitting opposite me, still with a faint smile on her face, but with a hint of sadness. I composed myself and told my mother, Nothing, Mom. A cockroach just ran over my leg. Really, what kind of man is afraid of cockroaches? You scared me to death, I thought something happened. My mother gently chided. Huong stood up, nodded, and politely greeted my mother. Well, it's noon now, I should be going. Oh, aren't you staying for lunch with us? My mother's voice was filled with regret. No, thank you, Auntie. Perhaps another time I'll come for lunch with your family. Now I have to go home and cook with my mother. My mother just passed away, Huong said sadly. Oh, is that so? How sad. All right, be careful on your way home. Come visit Auntie whenever you're free to keep her company. My mother went to open the door for her. My mother and I saw her off to the gate. She turned back to wave goodbye to me and my mother one last time, then rode off on her bicycle. I went back inside and flopped onto the sofa. I pondered what Huong had just told me. When did she meet Hung? And why did Hung say only I could help them when I myself might not even be safe? Oh, why is everything getting so complicated? I really didn't know what to do. Tired of thinking, I stood up and went to my room to get clothes for a shower. After showering, my mother had already finished preparing lunch. I ate and then went back to my room. My body had reached its limit. As soon as I lay down, I fell asleep without realizing it. I dreamed again. In my dream, I vaguely saw myself in a very dense area, and somewhere I heard the rustling of leaves. I heard the sounds of a group of friends, laughing, talking, and joking around. Next were sounds of arguing, screaming, crying, accompanied by the clatter of something. These sounds were clearer this time than before. Suddenly, I heard a voice echo in panic. Run, run away, she's here, she's coming, I'm forced. Tuan is dead. I woke up startled, the sound still lingering in my ears. That voice was very familiar, it sounded like Hung's. That's right, according to the uncle I met at the hospital, Hung also said such incomprehensible words when he was in a coma. I looked at the clock, it was 6 p.m. I had slept for a very long time. My head felt less achy, but my body was still sluggish. I sat up clumsily on the edge of the bed, trying to recall the details of my dream. Suddenly, I remembered a crucial detail. Hung's voice in the dream mentioned someone named Tuan. I didn't know who Tuan was or what his connection was to this story. I thought for a while and decided to go to Mrs. Leon's house to ask. Maybe she would know who Tuan was. I quickly put on a t-shirt, wheeled out my bike, and didn't forget to call out, "Mom, I'm going out for a bit. Don't wait for me for dinner, I'll eat later." The sky today was unusually gloomy, the air was cold, and the wind blew strongly, making my cycling increasingly heavy. Although it was already dark, I could still see thick black clouds, so a heavy rain was probably coming. Passing by Huong's house, the door was still closed and silent. It was pitch black inside, not a single light, but I still felt a pair of eyes watching me from the darkness. I shivered, put all my strength into my legs, and pedaled quickly towards Hung's house. As I reached the door, I saw Mrs. Leon clumsily wheeling out her scooter. She was probably going to the hospital to see Hung. "Auntie, are you going to the hospital to see Hung? How is he doing?" Mrs. Leon said sadly, "He's still the same, son. I don't know when he'll wake up." I sympathized with Mrs. Leon, but I didn't forget an important matter. I asked, "Auntie, do you know if Hung has a friend named Tuan?" Mrs. Leon thought for a moment, then, as if suddenly remembering something, she said, "Tuan? Yes, I know him. He came to our house to ask Hung to hang out a few times. His house is also nearby." "Where is his house? Please show me, Auntie." Mrs. Leon described the way to Tuan's house while giving directions. After she finished, I nodded my thanks and quickly got on my bike. The road to Tuan's house was in a tiny, winding alley just wide enough for one bike. Following Mrs. Leon's directions and asking some locals, I arrived at my destination. In front of me was Tuan's house, a rickety single-story house. The old tin roof was worn and full of holes. The front door was a rusty iron gate. The door was unlocked, and a light was on. So someone was home. I walked up to the door and called out loudly, "Is anyone home? I'm looking for Tuan." I heard a clatter as the door opened. Greeting me was an old man around 70. He looked at me and said, "Come in, son." I parked my bike beside the entrance and followed him inside. The house contained nothing but an old table and chairs, a 14-inch television, and a few personal items hanging in a corner. When I was seated, the old man called me and pointed towards an altar. "Looking for Tuan? He's sitting right there." I stared blankly at the altar. Did I hear wrong? Tuan, my only lead right now, is dead. I felt completely stuck. What should I do next? I stood up and slowly walked towards the altar set up in a corner of the house. Before my eyes were the photos of 4 people, old and young. Seeing me standing there motionless, the old man spoke up. In the middle is his grandmother, on either side are his parents, and his photo is next to his father's. "So you are," I hesitated. "I'm his paternal grandfather," Mr. Ba said sadly. "His parents died young in an accident when he was very small. I struggled alone, doing all kinds of jobs to raise him, and now he's only 17 and he's already." Mr. Ba choked up. His eyes welled up as if he was about to cry. I stood there, looking at Tuan's photo, and felt pity for the old man's fate. His children and grandchildren had left him too soon, leaving him to face the pain of a white-haired man burying a black-haired one. Now, at his age, close to death, he was all alone, with no one by his side. Ah, truly, suffering is only for the living. Lost in my thoughts, I suddenly noticed that Tuan's photo seemed to be blurring. I rubbed my eyes, thinking I couldn't see clearly. But no, Tuan's image was genuinely blurring, making it impossible for me to see his face clearly anymore. My ears suddenly caught a faint voice. "Don't, please, I'm sorry, don't kill." The voice was broken and unclear, followed by a loud thump, and then a thick, hoarse, very familiar voice echoed in my ear. "Die." It was Huong's voice. That meant Tuan's death was definitely related to Huong. Suddenly, a very loud buzzing sound rang out, making my ears feel like they would explode. I covered my ears with both hands, crouched down, my face twisted in pain, accompanied by a low groan. Mr. Ba, seeing this, rushed to help me. "Hey, son, what's wrong with you?" The buzzing in my head gradually faded and disappeared. Mr. Ba helped me to my feet, led me to sit down, and poured me a cup of tea. I took a sip of the bitter tea. It calmed me down. I turned to ask the old man, "Uncle, when did Tuan die and how did he die?" As he finished speaking, a loud clap of thunder erupted, startling both of us. It began to pour, the sound of the rain as if weeping for the unfortunate man's fate. He took a teapot, poured out 2 cups, and sat down. He began to tell his story. He fell from a height, Mr. Ba sighed. That day was like any other. In the morning, I took my bicycle and rode around the neighborhood, collecting scrap and selling some lottery tickets. And he got ready for school as usual. Around noon, I was eating a baguette in the park near his school. Every day I would sit there eating lunch, ready to bring him his meal too. He took a deep breath as if trying to suppress his grief, sipped some tea, and continued. Suddenly, Mrs. Sao, who sells drinks in front of the school, ran over as if being chased by a ghost, calling out to me. Her face was pale and she was out of breath. She said, Tuan, Tuan. I felt uneasy with Mrs. Sao's attitude, so I pressed her. What happened to Tuan? Please tell me clearly. Then her eyes welled up with tears. She said, Tuan fell from a height and died. Mr. Ba burst into tears, perhaps unable to control his emotions anymore. I took his hand and squeezed it tightly, trying to comfort him. He choked out. Hearing Mrs. Sao say that, my eyes blurred. The world spun around and around, my legs couldn't hold me anymore. But I still managed to ask Mrs. Sao to help me to Tuan's location to see if it was really him. Taking another sip of tea, he pulled out a pack of cigarettes from his shirt pocket, lit one, and puffed on it repeatedly. Regaining his composure, he continued. People were crowding around. I tried my best to push my way through. I saw my grandson's lifeless body lying there, and my heart almost stopped. He hit his face on the ground, his face disfigured beyond recognition, his arm and leg bones broken and sticking out. The scene was utterly tragic, blood everywhere. People recognized him by the name tag he wore on his shirt pocket. In his class, only he was named Tuan, so there was no mistaking it. He took another long drag from his cigarette, pensive. A little later, an ambulance and the police arrived. They examined the crime scene and then took Tuan's body to the hospital. After a bunch of tests confirming his death was an accident, the original scene was the school rooftop. Only after everything was done was I allowed to claim his body for the funeral. I just buried him yesterday. He only died 4 days ago. Goosebumps covered my skin as I listened to Mr. Ba talk about Tuan's death. He died so tragically that even his own grandfather almost didn't recognize him. I asked Mr. Ba, my eyes filled with sympathy, so the police said he died in an accident, uncle? Do you think that's true? Certainly not, Mr. Ba snapped. Tuan is afraid of heights. One time I asked him to climb a ladder to change the light bulb on the ceiling for me, and he wouldn't do it. He said it was too high, he was scared. So how could he climb all the way to the rooftop and stand there, only to slip? So, before that, did you notice anything strange about Tuan? I probed. Lighting another cigarette, Mr. Ba became thoughtful and then said, Yes, I did. Now that you mention it, recently he often talked in his sleep. I sleep out here and he sleeps in that room over there. He pointed towards Tuan's room. The house is small, so any sound can be heard clearly, and I'm old, so I have trouble sleeping. Any noise startles me awake immediately. For several nights leading up to his death, every night I heard him talking in his sleep, saying things like I was wrong. I'm sorry. And on the morning of the day he died, I passed by his room and saw him talking on the phone with someone, whispering. I couldn't hear clearly, but his face looked very scared. At that time, a regular customer called me to buy scrap, so I dismissed it and left. By noon, he was dead. If only I had paid a little more attention to him then, things might have been different. Mr. Ba sighed, then took another drag from his cigarette. He was blaming himself for being too neglectful and losing his beloved grandson. I thought for a while, then asked, Uncle, do you still have Tuan's phone? He shook his head. The police still have it to complete the case file. They'll return it in a few days. Why, son? When you get Tuan's phone back, please let me borrow it to look at it for a bit, okay? It might help shed light on Tuan's death, uncle. Mr. Ba thought for a moment, then nodded. I continued, Yes, this is my phone number. When you get the phone back, please call me. I have to go now, it's getting dark. I don't want to disturb your rest. Goodbye, uncle. The rain is too heavy. Wait until it lessens before you go, son, he said. Yes, no worries, uncle. It's nice to shower in the rain once in a while. It's been so hot lately. I'm going now, uncle. With that, I stood up and walked to the door, got on my bike, and didn't forget to nod goodbye to the old man one more time. The heavy rain caused the narrow alley to flood. I tried to hunch over to avoid the heavy raindrops while pedaling as hard as I could. No houses in the alley had lights on, and it was understandable. With such rain and wind, going to sleep was the best thing to do. The whistling wind, the drumming of raindrops on the old tin roofs, and the occasional distant thunder made the scene even more gloomy. As I cycled, I recalled what Mr. Ba had told me. I tried to arrange all the details. The pieces of the puzzle were gradually connecting more clearly. But I was still wondering about one thing. Was it really Huong who harmed both Hung and Tuan? And what did those two do to make Huong harbor such hatred? Also, the Huong who came to my house this morning looked like two different people. Though they had the same face, could she be possessed? And she said to help her, Hung, and her other friends. According to Huong, she herself needed help. How strange. There were still many unanswered questions in this matter. I needed more information. For now, I needed to know who Tuan called on the morning of his death. Perhaps that person could provide more information. The rain had lightened. I looked at the clock. It was almost 9 p.m. I had to get home quickly before my mother worried. After a short ride, I reached the intersection leading to my house. As I turned the corner, I was momentarily startled. I thought I had just cycled past a very familiar shadow. Turning my head to look, I saw no one. I was a little uneasy, but oh well, let's just get home first, I thought. Upon arriving home, I wheeled my bike in and my mother was standing under the eaves. I called for her to open the door. She stepped out, scolding, "You little devil, where have you been? It's pouring rain and wind, don't you know your mother worries?" "I'm sorry, Mom. I stopped by a friend's house and got carried away talking, so I forgot the time." I laughed it off. "You're all wet, go inside, shower, change, and then eat dinner. You'll get sick," my mother said irritably. I answered with a loud, "Yes, Mom," and took her arm to go inside. After showering and changing, I quickly settled at the dining table. My mother handed me a hot bowl of rice and gently said, "Eat up, big boy. Then, go to bed early, you have school tomorrow." After a few bites, my mother suddenly remembered something and told me, "Oh, that's right. Earlier, after you left, Huong came by." As soon as I heard Huong's name, my chopsticks fell onto the table. I pressed her. "Huong from this morning, Mom. Why did she come here? Did she do anything to you?" My mother looked at me, surprised. "What are you talking about? Do anything?" "She came to visit me to keep me company. Your dad works far away, and it's just the two of us at home. You go to school and then you're out all the time, you're never home with me, so she said she'll come visit me often." I grimaced. "What did you say, Mom? She's coming again." "So what? You're being strange," my mother chuckled mischievously. "But I really like that girl, son. Such a gentle, virtuous, and charming girl. She helped me cook all afternoon, and I think she likes you too. Oh well, having a daughter-in-law early is good, someone to talk to and help with housework." My face flushed. "What are you saying, Mom? I'm still young, I'm still in school." As I finished speaking, I saw my mother wearing a jade pendant necklace. I had never seen her wear it before. I pressed her. "Oh, Mom, did you buy a new pendant? It looks strange." My mother held up the pendant and smiled. "Isn't it beautiful? Huong gave it to me. She said this was her mother's, given to her when she was little, but she cherishes me so much that she wants me to wear it, and she said she wants to be my daughter." "Mom, why did you take someone else's keepsake?" I admonished. "That's not right. Take it off and give it to me. Tomorrow I'll go to her house and return it." Seeing the determination on my face, my mother reluctantly took off the pendant and gave it to me, looking annoyed. I said nothing and continued eating. After dinner, I returned to my room. Sitting on my beloved bed, I was still lost in thought about Huong. My hand toyed with the jade pendant she had given my mother. Tired of thinking, I placed the pendant on my desk and went to sleep. In the silent darkness, I drifted off, trying to find sleep. In a hazy dream, I heard soft footsteps on the stairs approaching my room. The footsteps stopped in front of my door. I opened my eyes and looked through the crack in the door. A pair of feet stood there. I called out, "Mom, are you looking for me for something?" There was no reply. The feet remained still. I sat up, turned on the light, and walked towards the door. Mom, why aren't you answering me?" A feeling of tension and fear began to rise within me. I pressed my ear against the door, listening for movement outside. I clearly heard a ragged breath against the door. I asked one more time, "Mom, is that you?" Suddenly, a voice answered, "It's me, open the door for me." It's definitely my mother's voice. I breathed a sigh of relief. I opened the door. My mother was standing there, wearing her usual everyday clothes. She looked at me and smiled. "Son, let me come into your room to talk for a bit, okay? I can't sleep." "Yes, come in, Mom." I nodded. The light from the room shone out just enough for me to realize something. Where was my mother's shadow? A jolt ran down my spine. My brain told me that the person standing in front of me was not my mother. I slowly backed away, sweat beading on my face. I said in a wary tone, "You're not my mother. Who are you?" The smile on my mother's face, or at least what appeared to be her face, was gone. What should I do in this situation? Clearly, the body before me is my beloved mother, but inside is the soul of someone else. No matter who she is, a ghost, a demon, or anything else, I won't be afraid of her. I summoned all my courage and said loudly, "Release my mother's body now." Suddenly, she screamed, an incredibly loud and prolonged shriek that hammered into my ears as if they would explode. I just covered my ears, closed my eyes, and braced myself against the spirit's fury. "I'm not afraid of you. Stop it and release my mother," I yelled. She stopped. Her face turned red, her eyes bloodshot and veined, her teeth grinding together. I swallowed hard, putting my hands up in a defensive stance. I actually knew a little martial arts, though I had no idea if it would be effective against a spirit. But then she started crying, tears like blood flowing from her red eyes, her sobs choked. She begged, "Please, young man, please save my child, even if she is sinful." Did I hear wrong? I was stunned, my mouth agape, utterly surprised to hear her plea. It took a few seconds to regain my composure. I relaxed my body and looked at her intently. I asked, "Tell me, who are you really, and what do you need my help with?" As I spoke, I saw her shiver, her eyes rolled up, and she collapsed onto the floor. I flinched, stepping back a few paces. A minute passed, and I saw her lying still, not moving at all. I ventured closer. "Hey, why are you lying so still? Get up." There was no movement. I moved closer to my mother's body. I heard her steady breathing as if she were asleep. I breathed a sigh of relief. So that spirit had left my mother's body. I called my mother. She opened her eyes and slowly sat up. She stretched and looked around. "Oh, is it morning already, son? And why am I sleeping in your room? Did I sleepwalk? Just came into your room and slept soundly? You scared me to death. Go back to your room and sleep more. It's not morning yet." My mother stood up, still confused about what had happened, and shuffled back to her room. I closed the door, looked at the clock. It was 1 a.m. I lay down, closed my eyes, and tried to sleep, but couldn't. Who was that woman's spirit that possessed my mother just now? Suddenly, I heard an increasingly loud rattling sound coming from my desk. I sat up, sighing wearily. What now? People say that if you encounter too many ghosts, you'll stop being afraid of them, and that's exactly my case. Looking towards the desk, my eyes widened in surprise. The rattling sound was coming from the jade pendant. It was constantly vibrating, emitting an eerie green light. I moved closer, picked up the jade piece to examine it. The jade vibrated more and more strongly, making it impossible for me to hold it firmly in my hand. It flew out of my hand, fell to the floor, and split into two, revealing a small photo. So this was a specially designed jade pendant. I sat down, turned on the desk lamp, and scrutinized the photo. The photo was a bit worn, probably very old. In the photo was a woman and 2 little girls. The striking thing was that the 2 little girls looked exactly alike. They seemed to be twins. Wait a minute, my mother said this pendant was Huong's mother's, given to her as a keepsake. So one of the 2 little girls in the photo must be Huong, and this woman could be the mother of the 2 girls. But I remember Huong's neighbor, the uncle, once said that her house only had a mother and daughter. So where is the other child? And who was the spirit that pleaded for my help just now? Another unanswered question drove me crazy. I carefully put the photo in my wallet and went to sleep. I honestly couldn't think anymore, and I had school tomorrow. 5:30 a.m., I woke up feeling sluggish, another night of insufficient sleep. Standing in front of the mirror, my face was haggard, my eyes dark and sunken. I yawned widely and shook my head wearily. It had only been 2 days since I got involved in this damned business, and I already looked noticeably worse. After getting dressed, I went out for breakfast. The food was already laid out. I sat down, and my mother came out of the kitchen, her face looking as disheveled as mine. I asked, "Are you sick, Mom? Why do you look so terrible?" My mother looked at me with eyes that wanted to close from sleepiness. She sighed. "Oh, I went back to my room last night and only managed to sleep a little more before staying awake until morning. Now I'm so sleepy." "Why, Mom? Why couldn't you sleep?" I asked. My mother sighed again. When I went back to my room and dozed off, I suddenly heard a voice calling faintly in my ear. When I opened my eyes, I saw a woman standing right next to my bed. I was so scared but couldn't sit up. My body was stiff and couldn't move. Do you know who that person was? Who, Mom? I asked, anxious. My mother looked around, then leaned her face close to mine and whispered, Huong's mother. I was a little surprised. I pressed her. How do you know she was Huong's mother? And did she do anything to you? My mother, seeing my calmness, raised an eyebrow at me. Why are you so calm? Huong's mother died and appeared, and you're not scared. I chuckled to dismiss it. How could my mother know I had encountered things far more terrifying than that? I said, It was just a dream, Mom. What's there to be scared of? Did she say anything to you? My mother thought for a few seconds, then said, Yes, she did. At first, she told me she was Huong's mother, and then she asked me to tell you to help her daughter. Her daughter was in danger. As soon as she said that, I woke up startled, realizing I was dreaming, but I was so scared I didn't dare sleep anymore, so I stayed awake until now. I sat silently, thinking. So Mrs. Bay, Huong's mother, had visited my mother in a dream. And the spirit that possessed my mother in my room was also Mrs. Bay. So my only remaining question now was, where was Mrs. Bay's other child, and was Huong truly dead or not? To find out, there was only one way. I had to meet Huong directly again. I looked at the clock. I was almost late. I quickly took a bite of a baguette, said goodbye to my mother, and rode off to school. I cycled straight to school. Thank goodness, just in time. I rushed straight to class because the lesson was about to begin. Passing by Huong's class, I glanced inside. She was still attending school as usual. She sat at the first desk of the second row. She saw me and smiled a greeting. My heart suddenly beat faster when I saw that smile. I turned away and went to my own class. I sat in class, unable to concentrate, because in a little while I would confront Huong face to face, whether she was alive or dead. The bell rang. Today's lessons were over. I felt incredibly nervous. My heart was pounding so hard it felt like it would leap out of my chest. I quickly gathered all my books and put them in my bag. As soon as I left the classroom, I saw Huong also arriving. I stopped Huong and called out loudly, Huong, come here for a moment. I have something to ask you. Perhaps because I was too nervous, I couldn't control my voice. Everyone around us suddenly fell silent. Then they burst into laughter. I had never felt so embarrassed. This was truly the first time I had dared to block a girl's path so boldly. Huong also chuckled softly and said gently, Do you have something to tell me? I bowed my head silently, gripped Huong's hand, and pulled her away, ignoring the teasing remarks from my friends behind me. I pulled Huong to the back of the school. There was a courtyard here used for physical education classes, and since it was dismissal time, no one was here. I let go of Huong's hand and stood facing her. I began to speak. Huong, I have something to ask you. Please tell me the truth. Huong opened her wide eyes with long, curled eyelashes. Her face was flushed from the midday sun, her long, dark hair gently swayed in the wind, and her head tilted slightly as she looked at me, making my heart skip a beat. She said gently, Go ahead and ask. Suddenly remembering what I needed to do, I began to calm down, took a deep breath, and articulated each word carefully. Tell me, are you alive or dead? She looked at me intently, then lowered her head and whispered, Luckily, I'm still alive. For some reason, I felt as happy as if I had won the lottery. So you're still alive, 100% truly alive, right? Huong nodded faintly, then said, I'm sorry, I wanted to tell you the truth yesterday morning when I came to your house, but... Then she fell silent, lowered her face, and began to sob uncontrollably. I suddenly felt awkward, not knowing what to do. I gripped Huong's hand and said, What happened to you and Hung? Huong suddenly hugged me, whimpering, You absolutely have to help me. I don't want to die, I don't want to die. Huong said, clutching me. My heart pounded. This was the first time a girl had actively hugged me like this, and a cute one at that. The weather today was very strange. The scorching sun suddenly gave way to dark clouds rolling in, the air grew colder, and fierce gusts of wind whistled through the trees. I looked up at the gloomy sky, sighing wearily. Another storm is coming. I suddenly remembered that Huong was still hugging me and felt a little embarrassed. I said, Don't do that, people will think it's strange. As I touched Huong's arm, I jumped. Her hand was ice cold, completely devoid of the warmth I had felt when she first hugged me. A coldness, mournfulness, and death. I stiffened all over, my mouth uttering broken words. Huong, Huong, what's wrong with you? Don't scare me. A bolt of lightning streaked across the sky, accompanied by a loud crack. My soul flew into the clouds as Huong lifted her head, still with those pitch-black eyes, the pale, greenish skin of the dead, her mouth full of blood, breaking into a wild smile, accompanied by that thick, hoarse voice. Die, there's still one more, must die.